Greetings everyone, it is my pleasure to announce I have finished The Rage of Dragons. This is one of the first books I heard about when I started doing this booktube thing. I've been wanting to read it for a year and a half probably. Finally got around to it, and Evan Winter, first time reading one of his books. He's black, by the way, he's black, everyone, he's black. So I was a little bit hesitant about this one because he lived in Zambia for a while, so this is supposed to be like an African-themed fantasy with dragons. There's not that many dragons, and that's good because I'm not a big fan of a lot of dragons. It seems like it's just overpowered and it's just like not a big deal. And this was hard to rate because I ended up giving it 4 stars out of 5. But there's a caveat there. It starts out not that great. I wasn't that into it at first. I was disappointed because all the African themed stuff means that he's using a lot of words that I'm not familiar with. Plus there's a whole magic system you gotta learn, which is a lot more words you gotta learn. So there's a whole glossary in the back of these terms, like Okumbusi. There's like this is a world where there's a lot of ranks, and there's a caste system where instead of being racist, everybody is like the nobles are better than the lessers, and there's different ranks of lessers and nobles. Where's this chart at the beginning? I'll show you why it was annoying. Anyway, when I was trying to rank it, I ended up saying, like, at first I thought this was going to be like a 3-star, and then I started thinking, well, maybe it's just a 2-star because I'm really not enjoying all these words. What the heck was the chart? There was a chart in here. Anyway, it's like you got the queen, and then there's royal nobility, and then the higher nobility, and then there's these people that are like, everybody from kind of that point down has military service. So they're like, what was it? People are called the Omehi. Inkokeli is the leader of an Ndlovu unit, or Ihashi scale. So what is a scale? A scale is kind of like if you had like a battalion, you would have regiments under that, and then you would have, what do you call it? Not like a squadron is like 4 or 5 people, right? So it's whatever between a regiment and a squadron. Like a scale is like a dragon scale, I guess is where it comes from. So it's like people be training. Like the lessers have different scales, and then when you get up into the nobility, they have scales too, I think. But usually the lessers never win. So there's this tournament that's going on. Everybody, when you reach a certain rank, you get trained, and to graduate to the higher rank, you have to compete in this tournament, I think. But the ones that fail and they don't get into the military, they're called drudges. So they're kind of like the peasants that do all the hard labor and work and stuff. But then you also got lesser people that are like commons, high common. The main character is like a high common, which I think is the highest among the lessers. But also there's these gifteds. So young girls, they test them, and if they have this gifted ability, they kind of like automatically get elevated above nobles to like almost like royal status. They're right underneath the royals, I think, so they can like command them around and stuff. Ingonyama is like a type of fighter used with an enrager. So some of the females, the magic system, once you learn about that around page 200, it kicks it up to like a 5. But then when you learn about the main characters doing this shit to like train really hard, it goes up to like a 6. So from about page 250 to about 400, about 350, 400, the book is at about a 6, and then you can't put it down. And then it kind of fizzles out towards the end, and he becomes less unstoppable, and kind of leads into the second book, which is all about vengeance and like getting revenge and shit. In Ndlovu, some kind of elite warriors among the noble castes, Ihagu, Ihashe, the Hedini are the bad guys, but maybe they're not so much bad. Let me just try to explain this really quick. There is like this shadow realm called Isihogo. which is confusing because the name of like the training ground is called the Isikolo. So they probably should have named them two different things. It's pretty close, Isihogo, Isikolo. So the females, when they get these gifts, they can go into Isihogo, and that's like the demon realm. There is apparently like this goddess and like a devil goddess, or maybe the goddess is there's a good one and a bad one, I think, and the bad one like had all these demons on Earth, and she sucked them into this demon realm where they like quarantined them in there. And dragons are kind of like the fire demons that they can summon, not from the demon realm, but they were like left here or something like that. It's kind of hard to explain. So entrancers can control dragons, or they can control people too, or anything really. But it's like different rules. Like once you go into Isihogo, the females that have gifts, they are enshrouded. They're hidden from the demons in this like shadow cloak. So as long as they don't run out of that shadow cloak, they can't be seen in there, and they're fine. An enrager is a type of thing where they go and they make one guy in the real world stronger. They kind of like stay halfway in, halfway out. He gets like super big, his muscles like rips, and he gets all buff, and he's like twice as big as he was, and he's like 3 times as strong, as fast and stuff. So it's like a buffing, kind of reminds me of like Team Fortress 2 thing with the healer and the tank. And the entrancers, they're kind of stuck with the dragon. So the dragon, it's really like complicated system with the dragons in particular, because when they're entrancing a dragon, it holds on to them and it keeps them in Isihogo until the shroud runs out, and then they get killed by a demon. So they have like this coterie of other girls, 6 of them, that one random one will take her place and she'll be killed at the end because the demons will kill her. Because once the shroud runs out, your soul glows really bright in the Isihogo and the demons come after you. Which is kind of weird. So like some random girl sacrifices herself so that the other girl can live, but like why? Aren't they pretty much the same? Like why does it matter who dies? So enragers, entrancers, there's one that's just like communicating with other people along long distances. Doesn't really get into that very much. And then there's the they do like this blast wave, and it makes all these warriors around them like get stunned because it puts them all in Isihogo, which they don't want to be in, and it'll drive them crazy. Sometimes when they see the demons, it drives them insane because they're not expecting it or something. It's like PTSD to the max. So why is this? You can use it in battle, and you gotta wait like 15 minutes or something like that before you can do it again. So the main character, his dad gets killed early on, and he's got these 3 guys he has on his list that were involved with killing his dad. So they're like, he's gonna kill these guys. His whole plan is to join the military, be trained, and eventually he'll become part of the military. When he's in the military, then you can force someone into a blood duel, and he can kill him legally. But there's this Queen's Melee, which is a tournament he has to do at the end of it. And one of the guys is also going to be in that tournament, so he can kill him during the tournament, and it'll be kind of legal if it looks like an accident, right? And there's 2 other guys he's got to kill too. So he's all just out for vengeance, killing these 3 guys. And he's got this girl he's interested in. She becomes gifted, and he kind of meets with her in secret. And the nobles see him, and then they start fights with nobles. He's always getting in trouble. He's almost like getting banished or getting strung up and hanged. He's always in like situations like that. So, what's cool is it's also kind of like Ender's Game combined with Spartacus, because the training and stuff is really like similar to Spartacus. And I love Spartacus, and I love Ender's Game because there's this guy Hadith. He's kind of like the tactician. He's like the genius guy in the squad, and he comes up with all these tactics. And a lot of his friends, like there's this big brute guy. There's a lot of like, one of the 3 guys he's trying to kill, he ends up like being on his side. So there's like an enemies to friend kind of trope going on a couple of times. And then, so his girlfriend, there's also a sex scene with the girl, by the way. Kind of weird. I was reading this next to my coworker at work. I'm like, what's going on? This is getting pretty dope. So she tells him how Isihogo works, And he was like, how do you enter Isihogo? And she said, well, you just gotta like empty your mind, and anybody can go there. Like, a lot of people don't know that you don't have to be gifted to go there. You can just go there on your own. You gotta empty your mind or something. And once you go there, the demons will start attacking you. And once they kill you, you get kicked out of Isihogo, and you're fine. As long as you can withstand the mental PTSD of being killed by a demon. So he's like, okay, if I know I'm going to be killed, I can kind of deal with this thing. And another way is to like blow all the breath out of your body, so you can just go in, look around, and like, whew, and then once your body starts to think it's dying because you're not breathing, then you'll like come out of it. So you could just do that, and also when you breathe, a breath in the real world is like 50 breaths in Isihogo. There's a time dilation thing. So this is when it gets interesting. He's doing all this training with this guy named Jayed. He's like this old military soldier who's like he's taking these people that have been crossbred between nobles and lessers that nobody knows about. He's finding that like they're stronger or something like that, and he's training them all. They all have different things. One guy coughs a lot. I forget what the other ones do. Anyway, he gets really good because they're all like every practice they go to the whorehouse and they go get drunk, and he's like, no, I'm going to keep training. He'll wake up early, he'll train early, he'll do the whole training for all day, and then he'll stay late and he'll train until he's just pretty much has to go to sleep. Trains. And then he fights this guy, the third guy on his list, and he gets his ass beat. So he's like, what the fuck, I've trained so much. And then Jayed says, you think you're the only one coming early and staying late? This guy's been training as much as you have, and he's a noble. And so then he thinks there's no way I can catch up to him if I'm constantly training. And he's way better than me, and he's constantly training. Wait a minute. If I go into Isihogo, where there's a time dilation, and then you're like, oh shit, he's going to do a Dragon Ball Z time chamber thing. And he does. And he goes into Isihogo, and like, this is where you start thinking about, oh, how could you do this? Because you could start making... I mean, you can't go into the demon realm and start practicing juggling and then like, get killed by a demon and just do that over and over again. You'll drive yourself insane. But like, you can take your weapons in there with you. You can take stuff in there with you. You can maybe learn to do other stuff besides fighting. But anyway, his plan is go to the demon realm, fight a bunch of demons, get killed, come back, because it's only been like a minute maybe in the real world, not even that long. Like, if you practice for a minute in the real world, it's going to be 50 minutes in the demon realm. So you could practice for like an hour and maybe be a minute and 10 seconds in the real world. So if you've spent like an hour in the real world practicing in the demon realm, what is that, like a week or something worth of training done? So like, he's dying and dying and dying, like maybe 20, 30 times a night. He's kind of losing his mind. He's starting to see demons everywhere when he goes to sleep, and he's seeing like his friends have demon faces, and he like has to resist the urge to kill them and fight them. He has to like hold on to his sanity, but he gets so goddamn good. He had like, Jayed broke his wrist at the very beginning, so he'd been like practicing left-handed this whole time. He's getting like better than everybody else, like left-handed. He's like a god with his left hand now, and he realizes, I'm not right-handed anymore. I'm better with my left hand. So his weak hand heals. And then he's like, I'll just start using two swords then. He pretty much invents dual wielding. Nobody in this world has ever decided to use two weapons at the same time. They're like, what are you doing? How are you doing this? He's like, he doesn't tell them like, oh, I've been fighting demons and shit. But he gets really good with two hands, with two dual wielding swords. And he pretty much starts wrecking everybody, killing nobles, killing Inkonyogis, what are the big guys that have been buffed. And he keeps saying a bunch of badass stuff too. They say like, who are you? And he's like, death. And he just goes and kills a bunch of people. And then they're explaining like, every time he takes a step, somebody dies, because he's just like, death. He's just killing dudes everywhere. But then, you know, he kind of gets his ribs cracked at one point, fighting somebody. Yeah, one of the Inkonyogis or whatever the fuck they're called. So and there's like this whole thing with like, they're trying to fight for peace instead of war, because the two sides come together. There's this whole other group called the Cull that are supposed to be out there, like almost from fairy tales. Like, people don't even know that they exist really, and they're supposed to be like vampires, like how they're immortal, but they can be killed, but they don't die from sickness or old age. So they're like out there and they're supposed to be like these god tier people. That they don't even come up in this book. So I don't know if this is meant to be a duology or if there's another third book. Maybe the second book that gets into the Cull, and maybe the Zadine and the Omehi or whatever team up to fight the Cull or something like that. But man, this book gets pretty dope for a while. With the tactics too, Hadith's giving him tactics, and he's pretty much. At one point, he has to fight 8 guys at once, and everybody's like so stunned that he's like fighting 8 nobles, and he's a lesser, and he's just. He didn't beat them, but he pretty much mortally wounded 2 or 3 of them, and it looked like he was going to turn the tides and like win. I mean, there's a bunch of crazy fights in this. If you like crazy fights, and you like Dragon Ball Z, and Ender's Game, and Spartacus, check it out. I have to recommend this book, even though I'm only giving it 4 stars because of all the stupid words you gotta learn. But there's still way more with the magic system they haven't really explored yet that I feel like they could get into. I don't know, second book. I'm gonna have to get it.